to be here. Floating down the lazy river. There you go. 8:30, past my bedtime. Do I have to say something? Toy, like a toy gun. Folks, you can't buy excitement like this.
Borys in the Forest. Well, can you explain what your issue is? You're having some issues there. What's going on?
No, what I was trying to say is that I hope the static fire is okay in the background, because I don't have a real one, so it has to be a virtual one. And we couldn't have virtual whiskey since it's a whiskey fireside chat. So obviously you need whiskey to make up for the virtual fire. Instead of a real one, I decided to up it up a notch and make it a single malt scotch instead of a plain whiskey. And one of my favorites is not that old, not that expensive, but it's very tasty. Glenlivet Caribbean Reserve. It was aged in casks that had Caribbean rum. So new bottle. Cheers to everyone that's listening and partaking. I usually don't do this early, but this is a special occasion. After all, I'm on with Kevin Callan on a Whiskey Fireside Chat, and given the fact that the guests that you have and their accomplishments that I'm in awe of, watch, read their books, I'm very honored to be here. Thank you, sir. So cheers to you.
Cheers to you. I'm honored as well. I love your stuff. I'm having this. Check this out.
Golden Paddle, Broken Paddle.
Broken Paddle. It's a Canadian whiskey from a company called Whitewater Distilling Company.
Interesting. After or before you break your paddle?
Probably during. Man, okay, so let's get this started. I mean, really looking forward to this interview, this chat. We've chatted before at shows and also at home and stuff like that, and had great conversations. And I just finished watching your latest Wabakimi series, and your best. That was your best, man.
Borys in the Forest on the Nemo River in Wabakimi Provincial Park. Woo-ha! Just wanted to say how happy I am that I'm here. Whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah, shallow, rocks, careful. Boneyard. Nemo River Boneyard. I got a river named Boney Maroney.
Man, you got a sense of humor that's just like, okay, I don't know what's going to come out of his mouth next.
Well, I just try to be me.
Hibbity hop. I said hibbity hop. Get the mosquitoes. It says lift over or line. Beep, beep. Oh, sorry, honey. Zigga-zagga. Good evening. Thank you for the beautiful day.
As the last 4 years have progressed, we all learn from our mistakes, and we're our worst enemy when we edit to confront ourselves and second guess ourselves. But I basically, from the beginning, decided that I'm just going to keep it simple, because for editing, I don't need to play with lighting. I don't need to learn about lighting in a room for editing, because I'm not interviewing myself in a room where I need specific light. I'm under the creator's country, God's country, whatever you call, right? And if it's dark or foggy or daylight or sunset, that's what it is for me. So that's what I'm recording. I can't just change. So natural environment is where we're at. So I figured I got a freebie there. Since I figured going that way, I thought I'm not going to choose a storyline. Like I've heard you say that sometimes, you have a storyline before you go on a trip and then you work around it. And I just found, I tried it a couple of times and it didn't work for me. So I just let things happen as they happen and keep it natural. The big problem with that is that most of the time, the best parts, the camera's not on or the battery ran out of juice or,
Well, no, it's true. Like I always start off with a story because I make a living writing stories, right? But then when I'm on the trip, I got to say, I don't know how many times I said, "Well, I didn't see that coming. I didn't see that coming." So,
right.
But what I really like about your stuff is that first of all, it's real, and the other is that it's just a one-liner old man jokes.
See, platypus, not single malt Scotch. No, platypus.
Let's get into the questions. Like, so what got you started into wilderness canoe tripping? Like, was it a person? Was it a thing? Was it a time?
Yeah, so I thought about that, and the best answer I can come up with is all of you guys. Because I didn't have a father. He passed away when I was still an infant, and my mom, was not into canoeing. So single mom raising, a son in the 60s and 70s. So yeah, I did a little bit as a teenager. Went to Algonquin Park a couple of times, but I never knew anybody or had influence to make that one of my sports, if you will, or things that I was interested in. Although I always loved being outside, I did a lot of sailing, connecting with nature that way. But really what has gotten into it is all of the books that I read in the past, as probably many people have, that would like to go wilderness canoeing, or they're afraid of going, or they just don't have the time, or for whatever reason. Hence the audience that you and wonderful authors write from their trips and stories and all different kinds of things. I won't start mentioning because I'm going to forget people, and everybody will be upset with me. But everyone that understands this knows who they are. And I figured that I lost track. Where was I?
You're naming off authors that you've read and inspired you.
That inspired me. Sorry. That inspired me. And that's where I think most of the basis comes from. Now, what was the catalyst? COVID. When COVID hit, I had some medical issues, things with work, didn't work out, wanted to go in 19. They closed the park, so I went in 20. For the first time in like 35 years in a canoe. Yeah. I was overweight, fat, out of shape. The movie reflects it all. I recorded it. It was my first film with one GoPro camera with my youngest son, Max, fat man in Algonquin on the Nipissing River. We didn't have a GPS with us. It was a 9-day trip, but we got rained out. So I decided to spend an extra day at High Falls. And Max said mom would be upset, and she was, because she came up with nothing all the way to Cedar Lake from Toronto to pick me up, and slept in the car in the end of June when bugs appeared to be at their hungriest. So that was a lot of fun. The OPP helicopter, they did call the OPP helicopter, came over us with the Rangers running up the last portage from Cedar Lake up the Nipissing to come and rescue us. We didn't need rescuing, but of course no one knew. So therefore, all I have to say about that is Garmin 66i, don't leave home without it. The next year I saw Jim Baird do a little advertising on it when he got it, and I got one right away. It was on sale. I absolutely love it, and I recommend all people to have it. But I was just ignorant, didn't know what I was doing, simply.
Well, you're skimming ahead, but this is good stuff because you've had some misadventures, man. First of all, I didn't think that you just started tripping in 2019, 2020.
Yep.
I thought that you were, as a child, you were like born of the wilderness. But thinking back, so it was COVID, and then you wanted to get in shape, you wanted to go into nature, and you had some misadventures. But so why put it all on YouTube?
Well, from the first trip, what had happened was my son gave me a GoPro camera for my birthday, which happens in April that year. So I took it along, and I had it recorded. And I think that I recorded 2 or 3 years as I added equipment before I actually put something on YouTube. I think I started the channel back in 2020, but there was no videos on it. And I actually put the first video from that trip in 2020. I believe it was in 2023.
Well, why did you want to share your passion then?
I guess I decided that what was the purpose of doing all these videos? And I started watching them, and I thought they were funny, and I thought other people might think they were funny. So I decided to put them on YouTube, and I got some positive response. So if you do something and people like it, you keep doing more. And as I semi-retired, almost retired now, but still semi-retired, I have a lot more time on my hands. And since it's a huge learning curve of, camera equipment and filming and editing and everything that goes into it, on top of learning, listen, my first trip with my son that year in Algonquin was a 3-0 against Coleman, but a Canadian Tire 3-man Coleman tent. And my saw, I went to Home Hardware and I got, a little hacksaw, a little square one with the wooden handle for $19.99. And I had a little plastic piece of something that came delivered that I wrapped with duct tape and made a sheath for it so it wouldn't rip my backpack. And that was my saw. So I evolved from there. One of my mottos is take less so you can carry more, and reducing volume and weight and making sure that if you can, everything that you take has at least 2 or 3 functions. So as you learn that and you make notes and you come back from every trip and you're business and analytical with it, because why am I taking this if I didn't use it? Except for things like, your emergency kit, right? Things like that. But other than that, so whatever I didn't use, I didn't take. An extra nice heavy sweater, always in the off seasons, even if you don't use it. But beyond those couple of things that don't take up much room, most people, including me, take way too much stuff. I still take way too much stuff. And when I enjoy it more because the portages are easier and I'm not missing anything. So by dehydrating our own food and, getting the diet, getting down, it becomes possible. My canoe only weighs 32 pounds.
All righty. So fell down twice with the canoe, fell down twice with the pack. Hey, not gonna fall now. Thank you.
No, I mean, even 45 pounds is already too much, because when I go on a 2-week trip, I take my small barrel, right? My 30-liter barrel. It never weighs more than about 27 pounds. So with that small barrel, I can take my canoe that only weighs 32 pounds. I got less than 60 pounds on my back and I can double carry. If I start doing the bigger barrel, if I had a heavy canoe, I'd be triple carrying all the time, because I can't carry more than about 60, 65 pounds anymore. After all, I did just turn 69. The brain says, I want to do this. And the body says, you're an idiot.
I'm also laughing more than you would imagine. My daughter just called me. I had to hang up on her, and you as a parent would know, I'm very excited when my daughter calls me because she doesn't call me, right? And the last time she called me is when I was interviewing Dan last week. I was like, "Come on, Kyla! Like, what's going on?" Well, going into that, like you have done trips with your son, which is fantastic. But actually,
and then we did Father's Day trips after that for a few years, and then everybody got busy, so we haven't gone for a couple.
Yeah, but the majority of your trips, and even talking to you personally, I know that most of them are solo because you prefer it. So why do you prefer solo?
Well, I prefer it because that's how I started. I went with my son, and then I loved it. I mean, when I say I was overweight and out of shape, I lost 22 pounds in those 10 days. 22 pounds in 10 days. That's how overweight and out of shape I was on that first trip on the Nipissing. But I realized a lot of things from that trip, and therefore I took action. So I guess it's always something that you think about. It's like quitting smoking. I quit smoking cigarettes 7 times over a period of 15 years until finally 20 years ago I quit, right? So everybody goes through these things. Once you make a decision, then you act upon it, and now you know that the decision is real. Other than that, it's just blah, blah, blah. So basically, I didn't have anyone else to go with, and I had lots of time. So I went on trips by myself, and I rented, solo canoes. I rented a pack canoe, and I tried different canoes, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So that's kind of how it started with the solo. And then anytime I looked for acquaintances or friends, no one else that I knew does that. or they weren't interested, or they can't. So I just kept continuing going solo. And of course, after you do that for a few years, if you don't mind your own company, of course, once you get used to it, you also get into a solo rhythm, right? And all your gear. So even when I went, we now do a 1 week trip, usually in the first week of July, with my lovely wife and our dog, Buddy, who's going to be, today's the 20th or the 19th. What's today? It's the 19th. He's going to be 16 years old tomorrow. Cocker Spaniel. He's a field spaniel. 16 years old. He still goes camping on a portage. Absolutely amazing. Anyway, so the first time I went with my wife, it was, almost like I didn't know what I was doing, because now I was cooking for two, had to take two different things and, a bigger tent and this and that, everything else. So it was, some people may think that that's weird, but once you get into it after a few years doing it, either, that's why I read a lot of articles and books and people's comments and stuff on social media. And there's a lot of people that have gone tandem many times and are afraid to go solo, or, gee, I'm looking forward to my first 3-day solo trip. I hope I make it back. And it's a fear or an anxiety that a lot of people have. And I think it's born from the fact that you always went with somebody else. I'm in the reverse, where I fear of going with other people if something happens, and, there you go.
Well, in one sense, you're not alone, because if I watch your films, especially the latest one in Wabakimi, you in your mind, I think you think the audience is with you, because you're constantly looking at the camera and commenting to them. And there's even one scene, I love it. You're saying, I'm going to set my camp up here. Look at the view, and you put the camera out, and I'm looking at the lake.
I'm going to set up, and you guys enjoy the view. Okay, there you go. I got to get out of these wet.
I love that. It's like you're treating the audience as if they're on the trip with you.
Well, thank you for general basic information on YouTube. When you become a creator, they give you a few little tips, and one of them is be yourself, and in our niche, take your audience with you on the trip.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ooh. A little warm by the fire. How you doing tonight? Okay? I hope so. If not, fix it.
That's what you do. You bring them with you. So they're watching, and I think if they're interested. One of the reasons is they would like to be there. They would like to go. So they're either they can't, or they're gathering information like I do. I watch people's trips because I gather information, and I enjoy, somebody's style other than somebody else's. But I figured if they're going to watch it, they like it. So why not help them and bring them along? And if YouTube suggests that is good for your audience and you'll get more likes and subscriptions, then it just seems natural. Why not bring them along? So yeah, I thought you were going to say I'm not by myself because I have all the friends in the forest with me.
Well, that's true too. But let's say for example, you had to take 3 individual YouTubers you've watched before, put them in a bowl of salad, toss them up, and it creates your video character. Who would those be?
Wow. Oh, I and creates my character. Well, I don't know if that's the end result. But I think the biggest YouTube influencers for me, to be very honest with you, have been yourself, Jim Baird, and Xander Budnick. There are a few others on the side, like that are important, but not on the top of my list answering your question, right? There's Joe and Lost Lakes, John and his wife in Lost Lakes, and all those people. But I think those 3 are the top for me. I just related to those 3 people more. You say I'm funny. I think you're hilarious. So that's probably why, we enjoy that from each other. Jim Baird is full of information and amazing things, even though he's definitely on a different level, mostly and out of our realm. but he brings it to such simplicity that we can relate and still be with him doing it. That's what I think his magic is. And Xander, well, Xander's, you know, gone different places now all over the world. So I haven't really had much time to watch him lately, but I certainly enjoyed as he grew.
Going back to the salad analogy, going back to YouTube. Now, what is your spice or what is your salad dressing? Because you add something different than all of them, obviously, right? So what at the end of the day, what do you think you add? I mean, you already kind of said that is that you are yourself. You have that sense of humor. Is it because you are not a young, muscle-bound person? You're basically an older person that's going off solo. That some people would say, "Gosh, isn't that dangerous? Shouldn't you be doing that?" Or other people are saying, "Way to go! That person's normal."
Woo! Folks, you can't buy excitement like this. You got to come to Wabakimi. This is absolutely amazing. Day 8, I'm in heaven. Ooh-ah. Max, Daniel, Ida, buddy, wish you were here. Damn, I love you guys so much. You have no idea. You're everything to me. I worked my whole life to finally meet a normal woman, and I had 2 boys. I'm so proud of you guys. So proud. Shine on, you crazy diamond.
Yeah, I agree with both those analogies, but you know, the danger part comes from within. So we can be very young, fall from the bed and die and break our neck, and it happens in reality. So, you know, I have a motto that basically says, don't run, you might fall. Don't try, you might fail. Don't live, you might die. So that's kind of what I go by. Very similar to what Jim Baird says one time when he's looking to read a rapid. He says, I ask myself, if I do this, can I die? If the answer is yes, I'm not running it. So simple analogy, simple answer. So you take the complicated and take all the fluff out of it and try to keep it as simple as possible. That's what I try to do.
That's cool. So I'm going to put it all down into I got this I got a focused question for you because I've looked at your career for the last few years and you've had some misadventures. We'll talk about the first one on the Nipissing where you had to leave your canoe and a helicopter took you out. You had food poisoning, or I think it was food poisoning. I don't think it was.
Yeah, I was on day 10 of a 9-day trip, and I was only at the Allen Rapids Portage, coming out at Cedar Lake. So from Tim to Cedar. What happened was on my second day, on my first night at Roseberry, I think it was either Gardia or food poisoning. I don't know what it was, but it was very light. I didn't feel that good. I woke up in the morning, ate my oatmeal, all was good. But as you know, there's 2 portages to get into Loontail Creek there. The first one about a 1400, then an easier 800 something. Well, that 1400 is one of the toughest portages in Algonquin, especially in the spring with the muck and the sluck and you know the stuff. So I basically was triple carrying because I was feeling pretty weak. And I only made it halfway through that portage and I just physically couldn't go anymore. So I looked to the left, I found a flat spot 30 meters off the trail, and that's where I set up my tent. I just couldn't go anywhere. So I decided to have a Lipton cup of soup, but instead of a Lipton cup of soup, it was not that brand. And I don't know if that was it, but as soon as it went down, it came up. I went to sleep, fell asleep, had oatmeal in the morning, stayed down, not a problem. Got to Loontail Creek, had my dehydrated chili for dinner, caught a little brookie, had everything, not a problem. Still a little weak from how I felt the day before, right? But okay. My next camp was Woodland Marsh before you get to the bend to go to the cabin. And I had our dehydrated ham and pea soup. The ham is what got me. It's last year's dehydrated ham and pea soup. I learned don't do that, Boris. Don't do ham. So now it's turkey and pea, and it doesn't last till next year. So up it came as soon as I ate it. So now I'm like food poisoning twice over a period of 4 days. I'm not feeling very good. So I figured there's a cabin. I don't have far to go. Maybe I can make it to the cabin, which I did. And I was there fixing my plumbing for 4 days. Off I went on the 5th day and made it to the next campsite. Nice little waterfall. Forgot what the name of it was. Caught a couple of brookies. Was getting back into my trip. It was day 9. Wonderful day. Starting feeling better about myself. I make it to the top of the Allen Rapids Portage, 2.75 kilometers. And it's a steep incline, about 45 degrees for about 20 meters at the base of the put-in or the takeout, depending on which way you're going. Didn't think about, anything, just normal, out of the canoe, took my packs out, picked up the canoe, took one step on a rock with my left foot and heard a big pop. I screamed and I couldn't walk. So I kind of sat down with my canoe on my head right where I sat. I crawled up that 20 meters. I got a rope. I tied it to my pack, then I tied it to my barrel, and I pulled it up that hill to the landing of the Allen Water Portage. And then I basically hobbled and crawled all the way to the campsite. My canoe was still at the put-in. My pack, I got it halfway, and my barrel all the way with me to that campsite, which is almost at the end of that 2.75 kilometer portage. It took me 5 hours to do that. It was 5:30. Luckily, the weather was fine, and a nice fellow paddler coming upstream on the Nipissing. That was his campsite for the night. His name is Luke. We became friends since then. He introduced me to the Steri pen, which is what I use to filter my water now. The ultraviolet thing. Anyway, he came and got my canoe, moved it to the other side of the Allen Waters, the Allen Rapids Portage, cached it for me, and brought my pack to me. We shared the campsite for the night. He left in the morning, and the next day, the rangers decided that it was too far for them to portage in from Gibson Lake, because I was right in the middle of somewhere where, plane can't fly in. And there was a RCAF military paramedic helicopter available, and they just yanked me right out of the Nipissing. It was an amazing thing. They took me and all my stuff, which I was very grateful, because they shared with me that usually they just take you, not your stuff. But I started to cry about my expensive camera equipment and everything. So they took all my stuff, and the canoe was cached. And as you know, I asked for a lot of help. And 2 months later, 3 young paddlers were going across the Nipissing, picked up my canoe and delivered it to me in kiosk. And nothing was missing from the canoe, wasn't damaged. It sat there waiting for somebody to rescue it, and it took 2 months. So that was kind of interesting.
So really, like, Boris, your life is like a portage, I swear, because you went through that ordeal, you survived that ordeal, and you went out again.
Oh yeah.
But also, you look at the next one, you had to cut your Wabakimi, I think your first trip in Wabakimi short.
That was before that. Yeah. That
was
after that, I've been okay. There hasn't been any misadventures since then.
Well, with your health, I do know that you had it.
I had to cut a trip short. We'll get to that, the Cup the River, in a second. But yeah, the Wabakimi trip was inspired by Canoe for COVID, 6 guys, which, the story from, I was going to Wabakimi for 30 days because it was my next year, and I was into it, and I was going to, rent a canoe. And then I heard about these guys, and I figured I'm going to go there for 30 days anyway. Why don't I do something for somebody? And hence the Paddle for Hunger and all that was born. And Food Banks Canada gave me a nice page, and it did some marketing for me, and I got some advertising. So that was really nice. Got a bunch of sponsors. At that time, unbeknownst to me, and of course, now only my second year in wilderness tripping, didn't know about what happens when no one can tell you what the water levels are like. How come no one can tell you? Well, because most of the lodges up there are owned by Americans. Americans are not allowed into Canada for the second year. They're all closed. Planes don't fly, float planes don't fly, customers don't come, money doesn't change hands. No outfitters, including the ones located near Wabakimi or farther away, could give me any information on water levels, period. So I went, I hope it's going to be okay. And that train was 16 hours late. Instead of dropping me off at 9 in the morning at Flint River Landing, they dropped me off on a new moon, pitch black at midnight. So with my headlight, all the stuff off the train, I walked down, and there was nobody there at the camp. It was all closed. So I pitched my tent right there on the grass, and that was it for the night. So I paddled approximately 20 kilometers on the lake and get to my first portage. It was only 20 meters marked on the map. Couldn't get to it. The water was 3.5 feet too low, and the little bay that you had to enter in order to get to the portage was now all Canadian shield sticking out of the water, 2 feet, all cracked. Put your paddle between it, doesn't reach bottom. Cannot paddle your canoe through it, cannot walk your stuff and canoe over it. How do I get from here to there? I spent a day and a half. I cut myself. I cried, I yelled, I prayed, I swore, drank a little scotch, didn't help. So after the second day of attempting, Garmin 66i, don't leave home without it. And I had my first ride in a beaver plane that was built the same year I was, 1956.
Oh my Lord. Okay, so one more, because we're running out of time. But one more, you also had a health issue, and you have a video on that. You had what did you have on the side of your face again? It was
so I was going in my 2024 Wabakimi trip, because I've fallen in love with Wabakimi apparently. I wanted to do the Kapka River for 3 weeks, and I was leaving. It was the fall again, so somewhere near the end of August and the first couple of weeks of September. Water levels were unusually high last year, confirmed by all the outfitters out there. So good news, people coming back saying water levels are great, no dragging. Because in the fall, Kapka River sometimes, you know. And 2 weeks before the trip, I woke up and the right side of my face was like a football. It was very hard.
Painkillers on my 6th day of antibiotics. It hurts.
So the short story is that 3 visits to emerge, 3 operations, 6 months later, out it came by me massaging it like this for 6 months. I was on antibiotics for 4 months. I was on painkillers for at least 4 months. And it was a 7 millimeter stone. You know, like people get kidney stones or gallstones, a 7 millimeter stone in diameter in one of my saliva glands. The big one up here is called the parotid gland, and it got stuck in the duct. Therefore, no saliva could come out. Infection ensued, hence the story. Now, that's a very complicated operation because you can lose facial structure and be paralyzed if they try to get it out surgically. So the only way to get it out is to massage it out and break it apart. There is no laser that does it for you. It's all like this, drinking lemon water for 6 months. Finally, in the end of January of this year, it came out. So I didn't post anything on social media for 6 months. I just didn't want to, I canceled my dentist appointments. I didn't want a dentist in my mouth. I have this stone. I mean, get it out of me. So it was like the David and Goliath story, you know, one stone bring big man down. One little 7 millimeter stone just did me in. So I had to get over that psychologically. February, March, I started posting social media, started re-editing the videos, and I was hell-bent for redemption the second time for Wabakimi. And that's why I went on a spring trip. I went on 2 spring trips this year. The second one was the Wabakimi that I just came back from. And I'm going again.
So this is why I love your story, because it is like a portage. You finally saw the blue at the end, right?
Absolutely.
How you doing, people? I'm in heaven. I'm in Wabakimi Provincial Park. Annual visitors approximately 500. Here we go on the Nemo River. Hope I have a good trip.
I enjoy it. I learned so much from it. I picked up information. How come what's one of the reasons I discovered Shinrin-yoku, forest bathing, the photosides that all the green leaf things in the forest exude that protect themselves from insects and disease. We breathe it in, it goes into our skin, and we benefit from it. It's been proven scientifically. So I'm taking medicine while I'm out there for free, enjoying myself at a very inexpensive cost for a poor Canada Pension Pan retiree. It's doable. I think the biggest challenge is your health. As far as age goes, to answer that question that I kind of skipped over there before that you were saying, is that at your age and stuff, and YouTube and a niche, most of the guys are maximum 40 years old that have any type of followers out there that are doing this type of stuff. So at the same time, I thought, since we have a huge population of aging baby boomers, I'm at the back end of it since I was born in 56. Most of them were born a little earlier, right? But maybe they can't go anymore, or maybe I can inspire them to go out. To maybe the wife can say, hey, look at that guy. He can go. Why don't you go? Right? Because, I mean, if we sit and age and have a sedentary lifestyle, we know the result. It is 2025. You don't have to know a lot or read a lot to understand that that's not very healthy for you. So I figure I'm improving my health, doing it, exercising, getting out in nature, enjoying being in nature. It's a very peaceful, rewarding, exciting place for me. And I guess since I got used to it going by myself, I really, really miss being there by myself. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I don't mind meeting people along the way or anything, but just that, I call it, after 5 or 6 days, I get into the zone where there's only 4 things on my mind that matter, right? Travel, shelter, food. Where am I going? Those are the only 4 things that matter. Nothing else matters.
That's fantastic. Cheers on that. Cheers on that. I do really think that your last video series was your redemption. You seem very happy and very comfortable where you were. And I've watched all your videos, but it was that series alone that it was sort of a redemption. It was like, okay, I've gone through the bad portage. I'm on the lake. I'm going forward, not back.
I can't stop smiling. I'm here. 2 years ago, I came. Got some demons to overcome here.
Well, this is great. Thank you very much, and good luck on your next trip. I know you're addicted to Wabakimi, and that is an amazing place. It's true wilderness up there for sure. And
Yeah.
so there's no smoke. There's no wildfires up there at all. You don't have to worry about nothing.
No, well, don't. I was just, like I said, I just returned, and I think on June the 3rd and 4th, we had visibility reported to us down to half a kilometer from the smoke, but it was only for the one day from all the Manitoba, Saskatchewan fires. But yeah, since then, there's been a lot of rain, as you know. There's a lot of rain over Algonquin right now, where I'm going in the first week of July with the wife and the dog to our favorite place. It's a secret. And then a few days later, on the 16th, I'm going to get on a train. And my plan is my longest solo trip to date in Wabakimi, in places I have not yet been, for 24 days.
Wow. Wow. Okay. You're an inspiration, man. Cheers. For this whiskey chat, a big thanks goes out to my sponsors, my friends, Explore Magazine, Canadian Outdoor Equipment, Recreational Barrel Works, Adventure Medical Kits, Novacraft Canoe, Badger Paddles, and Algonquin Outfitters. Thanks, everyone.